Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to address the video I uploaded last week about why people who want student loan forgiveness piss me off. And that video got some traction, and yet my views have not changed. They still piss me off, but I'm going to address today the top 3 rebuttals I got to my video and smash them to smithereens. Let's get started. So number 1. Student loan forgiveness will stimulate the economy. The pro-forgive my student loans crowd thinks that if everyone's student loans are forgiven, that will stimulate the economy because these people will be able to spend the money on other things instead of sending their monies to the student loan payoffs and to the banks and everything like that. And here's why that is a load of crap. People on the left side of the economic political spectrum have long thought of what's called broken windows economics. And what broken windows economics is the theory that, say you go around smashing a bunch of windows, that will employ a bunch of people in the glass industry and window installation industry to repair those windows, and therefore those people are going to get paid, and they are going to use the money they get from fixing these windows and inject it back into the economy, and people think that will stimulate the economy. But what nobody tells you about that theory is that there's another side. It's like Newton's law. For every action, there is a reaction. And therefore, the people who have to pay to get these windows fixed, so if these people go smash up the windows of some shop owner, well, this shop owner is going to be out $500,000 having to fix those windows. So that's $500 to $1,000 less that the shop owner is going to have to put back in the economy. So yeah, the people fixing the windows and the glass blowers and everything making the windows, they might have more money to put into the economy, but it's at the expense of the people who are having to pay to get their windows fixed. So it's a net sum of zero. It's the same thing with student loan forgiveness, because yeah, all these people have their student loans forgiven, might now be able to put that money to other uses in the economy. But guess what? All debts are paid, and therefore, what is the opposite reaction to those who get their student loans forgiven? Well, it's increased taxes, increased inflation, and that combo will mean all the people have to pay higher taxes and higher inflation costs to cover the student loans of those who have their loans forgiven. They're not going to have as much money to spend in the economy, so it's a net zero. It's like the stimulus checks during COVID. Like the stimulus checks, yeah, the government might give you $1,200 or however. I didn't get a stimulus check. I made too much money. But the government might give you, $1,200, $1,400, however many dollars to go spend in the economy. But guess what? In the long run, it's like you didn't get anything at all, because now you have to pay higher taxes and higher inflation to cover that stimulus check you got. It pretty much wipes out the stimulus gains you got. For every action, there's an opposite or equal reaction, and the same is true in the economy. It just shifts the burden of those paying for their student loans to the taxpayer. Why should the blue-collar worker who didn't go to college have to pay the loan forgiveness for those who did? And that brings me to number 2. Student loans are predatory. Borrowers didn't know what they were signing up for. I mean, 18-year-old college student signing for student loans, he didn't know what he was getting himself into. And I kind of agree with that. I mean, that was me. I mean, when I went to TCU and decided to major in journalism over computer science, big mistake on my end. If I could do it over again, I would have done computer science without hesitation. But I thought I'd get a good job in journalism and pay off the student loans that I was borrowing at TCU. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. But the problem is, I do believe this is true. I do believe student loans are predatory. I do believe that it's not fair that some of these students have to borrow all this money to go to college. But here's the deal. Student loan forgiveness is not the answer to that problem. You want to fix the problem? Make the universities have skin in the games. They are the ones ripping you off. It's the colleges and universities and higher education that are being the predators here. They are the ones who are taking advantage of the student loans to jack up their prices. It's the U.S. government who has taken over the student loan industry, and the universities, they're in bed with each other. They conspire. This causes higher education costs to spiral out of control. It's not fair. Those are the two people who are being predatory, not the banks. And therefore, it shouldn't be up to the taxpayer to pay it off. What should happen is that the universities should have skin in the game. You want to charge $60,000 a year, which is how much it costs to go to TCU now. It was only about $28,000 a year when I went. It's $60,000 a year now. It's doubled in price in the last 11 years. If you want to charge $60,000 for a journalism degree or some humanities or fine arts degree that is not going to give you employable skills to be able to pay that loan back, then the university should be on the hook. I think the university should co-sign for these loans. If that happened, then either student loans wouldn't be given out like candy and college costs would drop overnight because universities wouldn't want to be on the hook for $250,000 worth of education for someone who borrows at TCU for all 4 years. They wouldn't want to be on the hook. So they would be very stringy with who gets student loans, prices would drop, but that's not going to happen because, like I said in my last video, the government and higher education's in bed. They collaborate with each other. They're like a cartel almost to screw the borrower, screw the taxpayer, just so people in higher education and the government can get rich off the outrageous costs of higher education. But yes, I do agree they're predatory, but it's the universities that need to pay, not the taxpayer. The taxpayer should not have to cover student loan forgiveness. The universities should. So if someone wants to major in gender studies for $50,000 a year, then the university should have to back that loan or lower their costs or not offer that as a major. There's worthwhile majors out there. Science, technology, computer science, engineering, that type, it's worthwhile. It might be a good investment to go into debt for those majors. But someone like me who majored in journalism, where if I didn't switch over to the data science side of the TV industry, I would still probably only be making like $40,000 or $50,000 a year. Those reporters at TV stations, they don't make anything. The TV station I worked at Iowa, our reporters made like 20 grand a year. I remember one of the first jobs I interviewed for out of college was a sports anchor position in a small market for 19 grand a year. Like, salaries in the journalism are that bad. Like me borrowing over $100,000 for that degree, it was not smart. And that brings me to point number 3. I'm just a privileged white guy who doesn't have a heart. I'm just a privileged, rich white guy who doesn't have a heart. First of all, I'm not rich. Yes, I make decent money these days, but I had to work very hard at that. Like I said, I majored in journalism. I wasn't making a lot of money in TV. So I upped my skills. I learned how to program in Python and R. I learned data science so I could go over to the data science side of television and make a lot more money. I slaved away. And while other people my age were going out to the bars, drinking, playing video games, watching TV, I was taking night classes, learning how to code and program. So spare me how I'm just a privileged rich white guy. I've paved my way to be able to make more money. I had to abandon what I wanted to do in journalism. I had to abandon that so I could actually make money to pay off my student loans and build a life for myself. I know people who I graduated with who are still only making like $40,000 a year in TV because that's just what it is. So spare me this whole I don't have a heart. I do have a heart. I don't want people to have to be saddled with debt they can't pay back. I don't want people to have to suffer and struggle. I don't want people to have to go to college and borrow money in order to make it. It's just that your anger is misdirected. You need to direct all your anger at the universities. They are the evil ones here. How they get a pass, I don't know. Like, I went to TCU. I don't think it's worth $60,000 a year. It's about 2 miles behind my shoulder. It's not worth 60 grand a year. I don't even think it was worth the 28 grand a year that I paid when I went. Higher education should not cost an arm and a leg. It should be something that anyone can afford by working a job on the side if they need to afford college. The people you need to get angry at are the universities. It's the universities that don't have a heart. They're the ones charging exorbitant amounts of money for their crappy educations. That's what they're charging for. Crappy educations, I might be a little off there. Like I said, there's some majors and degrees that are worth it, but what you're paying 60 grand a year to go to TCU for is not the education. You're paying for all the new buildings, bells and whistles, new athletic stadiums and football stadiums, You're paying for that. You're not paying for the education. So the people who don't have a heart are the higher education universities ripping people off. Those are the people you need to get mad at, not the people like me who are saying the taxpayers should not have to pay for the student loan forgiveness of others who don't want to pay their loans back. That's who you need to get mad at. If someone is in a position where they can't afford to pay their student loans or they borrowed too much money, they need to go complain to the university for giving them such a crappy degree that they are struggling economically. Because isn't that the whole point of going to college? That you get a good job that can help you build a good career, and therefore you should be able to easily pay off any student loans you got? No, they want to rip you off. Those are the ones who have no heart. Colleges and universities have no heart. Get mad at them. Anyway, those are the 3 most common rebuttals I have seen and how I just smashed those arguments all to smithereens. Anyway, that wraps it up for this video. Again, stay tuned for my next video right here. You've been watching William Lease.